be with you on the program again tonight. We hope you've been blessed and strengthened in the Lord. This is going to be the final part of a series which we've been doing over the last 4 weeks, dealing with the mind, dealing with the thoughts, the things that science does not understand and cannot understand. And the reason for that is, as we deal with the fact that science does not know and has dealt with the fact that science does not know what thoughts are, where thoughts originate, where they come from. A whole lot of scientists acknowledge that thoughts comes from outside of us, and we've spent a lot of time proving beyond any shadow of a doubt that that's exactly where thoughts come from. Thoughts come from outside us. They are then lodged in our memories, and we recall them and events that went along with them. But when you're born, when you're a baby, you don't have no thoughts. You don't have anything. You don't have anything in your head. It's a computer. We've seen that science is able to work the brain and show images of the brain at work when thoughts enters into the brain. In other words, they see the machine kicking off and doing its job once the thought enters, but they do not know where thought comes from. We have also seen during the course of this series that they acknowledge that they don't know what consciousness is, that they don't know where consciousness comes from, that they don't know the area of the brain that is associated with consciousness, our alertness, our awareness. Now, you must not confuse that, as we've dealt with, and this is a little repeat. You must not confuse that with instinct. Animals have instinct and awareness and so forth. But, my dog didn't wake up the other morning and walk around his food bowl depressed with the consciousness that, I don't have but maybe 5 or 6 years left to live, if I live out my whole life and don't get hit by a car or something. Whenever it comes to death and death alone, we are the only beings in the entire universe, the only living species that even knows that we're going to die, that can plan for it. Even that awareness, that concept. But listen, chimpanzee's brain and our brain are basically identical. And scientists cannot understand where the consciousness, the awareness comes from that is uniquely designed in us. They don't know where it's at. Not only that, but we also dealt during the course of this series with reality. And the fact that science knew that light, traveling at 187,000 miles per second, they knew that light was a wave, but then they discovered that light was also particle. When they discovered that, the ceiling came off. At that point, they had no idea of what reality was. And so, in short, they determined that reality was whatever you saw, and you had to see it before it was real. And reality has to be measured before reality can be real. Now, I explained to you in other programs that this is where the foolishness of our day has come from. Relativity, that everything's relative. There are no absolutes. There are no real morals, and there is no evil, no good. Anytime you hear any of that, and it dominates the world, the secular society, radio, television, the schools, that what's moral to one person is not necessarily moral to another person. In fact, the business is what's moral to one person can be immoral to another person. What's good to one person can be bad to another, and what's bad to another person can be good. So there really is no good and bad. It's how you as an individual see it. That's everything, making everything relative. And that came because science lost track of what reality was. Just by finding that particle in light, they no longer knew what reality was. It has to be measured now, and it's not real until you see it. So we have seen that thoughts, consciousness, we have seen that reality are all things that science does not know. We're going to spend the rest of tonight's program going a little further into the dreams. We dealt with a little bit of it last week. But we're going to go into the dreams and what dreams are, and another area of which science has not a clue. In their science journals, and the largest science from Boston College and Boston Medical Center, all around the world, you will find that concerning dreams have no clue of what this is. So we're going to talk about dreams tonight in this last part of this series, and it will be available on one DVD if you missed any of it, and it is a fantastic series, I promise you that. Now, as we deal with dreams, we must understand this, that since science does not know, along with so much and so many other things, what they are and where they come from, we would have to then look to the Bible as the source. Now, please understand this, that all the things that we have mentioned during this series, and I just mentioned to you again, where thoughts come from, consciousness, reality, and now dreams, all of those things that science acknowledges that it knows nothing about and don't know where it comes from, all of those things are non-material or non-physical items, you might call them. They are things that are connected with something that is in fact here. There is something here, whatever you call it, your state of reality. There's something here. No denying that. When you dream, there's something there. No denying that. The point I've been making throughout this whole thing. Scientists telling us that there is no God, telling our children that there is no God. The idiocy of a Bill Maher, just running around the country trying his best to destroy people's faith and mock them and make them sound crazy and saying, if you can show me a God, I'll believe in him. Well, the simple fact of the business is we may ask him, does he have thoughts? Well, yes, but you don't know where that comes from, and we can't see them either, so how can you say that the thoughts that you're thinking are even real? But we could also ask Mr. Maher, along with Richard Dawkins, every other scientist or so-called scientist, we could ask every human being on the earth, have you ever dreamed? And the answer is, yes, you have had a dream. Well, there's no way to prove that you had a dream. You don't know where it came from. Science don't know where it came from. But yet you tell people you had a dream and expect them to believe it because you did have it. Even though you don't know where it came from, science don't know where it comes from, and no way to prove it. But you had a dream, but there ain't no God, is there? Based upon those same principles. So what are dreams, and where do they come from? Well, first of all, the Bible will give us a little bit of insight on dreams and what they are. The Bible tells us in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon's writings, one of, if not the most wisest man in the world. In Ecclesiastes 5:3, it makes this statement. It says, "For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by a multitude of words." Now, two things connected. A multitude of words from a fool's mouth and dreams coming from much business. One of the things that produces dreams is being exhausted, much business. But those dreams that you have because you go to sleep, but your brain is not at rest, some of those dreams are as foolish as the foolishness that comes out of a mouth of a fool who speaks a multitude of words. In other words, all dreams does not mean something enormously significant. You wouldn't want to build your life around it or build your hopes and dreams around dreams, because some of them is just because you have worked hard and you've went to sleep and you're asleep, but your brain's still working. Some neurologist tells us that the things of which you did throughout the day is lodged in one part of the brain. At night when you go to sleep, there's a transference. They transfer from one part of the brain to the other. And sometimes they're replayed backwards, and you see them in dreams that you have no understanding of. The point is very simple. Some dreams have really no meaning. Then the Bible tells us in the book of Ecclesiastes 5:7, it says, "For in the multitude of dreams and many words, there are also divers vanities, but fear thou God." Vanities means uselessness, nothingness. So once again, it's telling us that some dreams are simply nothing to even concern yourself with. They are basically nothing. The Bible also tells us in the book of Isaiah, it tells us in Isaiah 29:8, "And it shall be even as when a man is hungry and he dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he awaketh and his soul is empty. Or a man is thirsty and he dreams of drinking, and he awakes, but his soul is still faint." Meaning that you had the dream, and the dream was based upon the fact that you was hungry, bringing us then to another point. Some dreams comes about because of desires that you have. Some of those desires are conscious desires, such as a hungry man being conscious of the fact he's hungry, and he dreams of eating food. But it really does him no good because he wakes up in the morning and he still is empty. There are also hidden desires, desires that we don't share with people, desires we don't tell people, that's locked deep into the subconscious mind or hid and tucked away. And sometimes we go to sleep and we dream about them. Now, one thing that science has discovered pertaining to dreams is this, that rapid eye movement is connected to the dream state. Rapid eye movement is what you do when you are fully alert, fully awake, fully conscious, right now looking around. The rapid eye movement. The eye is moving. It's watching and it's moving. It's a rapid eye. They call it rapid eye movement. When one is in a full dream state, he is also in rapid eye movement. So it means this. It means that whenever you dream, the dreams are so real, so much as though that you are actually there where those dreams are and in those dreams. Your eyes are reacting. Your body, in fact, is reacting to those dreams exactly as you would act to the real situations if you were awake. If you had a bad dream, a frightful dream, you wake up sweating. Sometimes you'll wake up screaming, shaking or terrified. That's how real a dream is. And in fact, wherever you are in dreamland, you may actually be there. But the Bible tells us more about dreams. So far we've seen the fact that not all dreams means anything. Based upon conscious, subconscious fears, conscious, subconscious longings or desires, such things as this. Doesn't really mean much. But the Bible is loaded with the fact that God uses this thing called dreams. The Bible tells us that God gives dreams, and those dreams that He gave men the ability to answer prophecies, gave men abilities to reveal prophecies that had been given. The Bible also tells us that these dreams that God gave was dreams of warning. In the book of Matthew, chapter 2, I believe it is, you'll find that the wise men who came to see Jesus at His birth was warned of God in a dream. Now, we have to go back to some of the earlier programming. You have to understand that science does not know what these things mean simply because they are of the non-physical world. And you cannot measure or judge the non-physical by the physical and get an answer. It's not there. And so you can't possibly know. What God did was created the brain so that the brain would, among its many other functions, have the capabilities of contacting, being contacted, transmitting, and receiving, as we talked about, because the brain is literally a transmitter and is literally a receiver. But God has placed things in the brain, compartments of the brain, that gives us the ability to hear, to make contact with, and to have that other non-physical realm, that non-physical world, contact us in the form of thought, consciousness, light, reality, and dreams. The Bible tells us clearly that God warned those wise men not to go back home by the way of Herod. The Bible in the same chapter of Matthew warned Joseph in a dream to get Jesus to Egypt. And then, of course, we saw that Herod issued the command to kill all the firstborn babies. So God does speak to us in dreams, and the Bible is full of dreams. Dreams and visions are very much alike, except the dreams that take place and the visions that take place. One is done in a sleep state, and the other is done while you are awake, yet tranced. It's very interesting because we see people like Elijah, who was actually carried away to a place some 2,000 years, 2,500 years in advance, to a place he said he was at, to a place he said he was there. And he said he saw, and he said he heard the valley of dry bones. And God asked him, can these bones live again? And Ezekiel said, thou knowest. That was the Bible, and that was God showing Ezekiel and then giving us prophecy that the nation of Israel would once again come alive and be a nation again. And in 1948, that is exactly what happened. The Bible tells us of John on the Isle of Patmos, how that John was actually brought forward 2,000 years. And he saw this technological explosion of which we live in today. He saw nations, numbers of armies, of which all is proven true today. He saw one army, John did, and he emphasized it because at that time there may not have been 200 million people even in the world. Certainly, there was never an army with 200 million people in it. But John in the book of Revelation said he saw an army, kings of the east. He saw an army with 200 million in it. They appeared to be as locusts. No doubt that they were dressed for biological and chemical warfare. But he saw 200 million soldiers in one army and expressed a double expression and said, and I heard the number of them. And in 1978, China, strangely enough, used that exact number and said, we have 200 million men under arms. From the mark of the beast. All of the things that were seen in the book of Revelation that is clearly, technologically proven true today, right here and right now, was seen 2,000 years ago by a man who said that he was brought here. So dreams, well, they are something that can be used as time travel. Visions likewise. In the spirit realm, in the spirit world, there are no timelines running just one direction. You can access it at any point, frontward, backwards, sideways, going backwards into the future, forward into back into the past, forward into the future. This is a world that science knows nothing about, and they readily tell you they don't know anything about it. The Bible does tell us something about it. And science, since it only deals with the physical and cannot and will not deal with the non-physical, cannot know what these things are. Dreams, visions, reality, consciousness, thoughts, they can't know because they are not physical, but they cannot deny, nor can any one of us, that they're there. So why would a scientist take a book that specifically deals with what it is they say they can't understand and just ditch it, throw it out before they even get started and say, well, we don't know where consciousness comes from. We don't know really what even sleep is all together for. We don't know what thoughts are, and we don't know what reality is, and we don't know what dreams is, but I'll tell you what, we're smart enough to tell you there is no God. That is absurd, ridiculous. These people are what the Bible said they are and were. They are fools. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. So, in the closing minutes, let me just go over each thing that we've addressed and let me answer it for you. First of all, that deals with thought. Where did thoughts come from? The Bible makes it clear that thoughts are things that's injected into our minds that becomes a part of us when we form it, frame it, and entertain it. Genesis chapter 6 tells us, the imagination of their thoughts were evil continually. The imagination means formed and framed. that they had formed and framed in their minds and entertained became the thoughts of their lives, and they was wicked and corrupt. And we talked about how they destroyed the earth. You ought to get this CD. The DVD. It would be a blessing if you did. All of the programs is on it. So just let us know if you want it. The second thing was consciousness. How do we have this conscious state that we have that far exceeds anything else in the world, the universe? Where does it come from? The Bible makes it absolutely clear for us so that there would be and could be no mistaking it. The Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 2 that God breathed, or that He formed man from the dust of the ground. At that point, he's just a human machine. He's just another animal. And in the Hebrew, it actually reads the animal man. And at that point, he's just dust, dirt, flesh, blood, and bone. But the Bible says in that verse that God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Breath is a word. This also translated spirit. He breathed into that animal, man, his breath, his spirit. And it says man became a living soul. Not just a soul, but a living soul, conscious, aware. And conscious and aware of what? What breathed into his nostrils. He didn't breathe into the fish's nostril. He didn't breathe into the whale's nostril. He didn't breathe into the monkey's nostril. He breathed into the nostril of man, and man became a living, awake soul, aware. And that's where awareness comes from. The only reason that we're aware of heaven. No monkey prays over a banana. We are aware of life and death, of heaven, of God. We're aware. And why? Tells us simply that God breathed His Spirit into this vessel, and we are aware and alive because of it. The Bible tells us what the dreams are, many of them meaning nothing, but a compartment of the brain that is used whereby contact can be made and God can reveal Himself, His will, warnings, interpretations, as we see throughout the entire Bible. There's a portion of your brain that is able to communicate with the other world. So we see all of these things answered clearly from the Bible. And we come away drawing one conclusion. There most definitely is a God. And all of that of which science is ignorant concerning, the answer lies in the Word of God. Clearly so. Clearly written, clearly established. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Remember, we're on Saturday nights and Sunday nights now on the same channel, the same time. I want you to watch. Now, listen, our nation is in an uproar right now. And what has taken place concerning Mr. Trump is the most vile act toward humanity this country has ever seen. There are evil forces, and we spent 8 years pointing them out for you. Right now, there basically is nothing new to tell you other than that the war is on. And once again, as always, only one side is fighting the war. These people that call themselves Republicans are spineless, jellyfish-like cowards. Always have been. There is a full-fledged war going on in this country right now. Those who seek to overthrow it, and was one election away from doing so, they are in full war mode. And our Commander-in-Chief took an oath of office to protect us from enemies outside this country and enemies inside this country. And as I've told you over the years, there is no way this mess can be solved now by politics. We gave them too much power. We let them gain too much control. And there's only one way now to end it. I don't advocate it or call for it. I'm only speaking reality as it is calculated. The only way to end this now is force. Because those who are fighting against the principles of this country and fighting against the president of this country, within this country, are doing it by force. Politics, rules, and laws, well, they're gone now because an evil bunch of antichrists has been given power. And even though you have a president sitting in the presidency, trust me, that ain't where the power is. Pray for your country, pray for God's leadership, and get ready, my brothers and sisters, to do something.
I could not have walked down that road. I could not have carried such a heavy load. I would not stand silent as they lied on me. I would have fought back in Gethsemane. I never would have drank that bitter cup. And if they came for me, I'd never give up. But the man who came from Galilee was more of a man than me. Never would have died to set man free. And as for those who drove those nails in me,